So let me just walk you through how I use Matlab typically. I've shrunk down the window quite a bit, so there's not a lot of real estate here for me to deal with, but it'll give me, I can give you a general idea of how I do this and walk you through some of the steps. So this is the basic opening window. The right here is the command window. All the work gets done here. If I type a equals 5. I just can all be done in this command window. I can type help plot, and this will show me a lot of stuff. This would be easier to read in a larger window, but you get the general idea. So a simple way to get help is to just type help and a command name at the command line. And this tells me how to use the plot command. It shows me all the little symbols I can use for markers. I've been using a little O in single quotes to get circles, but you can get X's or pluses or stars or whatever just using all these commands. I can change the lines to be dotted or dashed or whatever, and I can change the color of lines. If you look down here at the bottom under C also, there's, for example, X label and Y label. Those commands are used to change the X or Y labels on a plot. I can give it a title. I can add a legend. I can deal with the axes, both where they are and what the limits are on the X and Y axis and things like that. I can do log and semi-log plots, log. Things like that, scatter plots. So there's lots of flexibility in the plot command, and this documents it some. If you go to help here and MATLAB help, it'll give you a more browser-based, searchable help tool that in some cases is a lot more useful than this command line help. So now let me go back to this default window. So up here you see a directory window, and this shows all the files in the directory. I should mention, by the way, that I changed my working directory. By default, your working directory is the work directory under your MATLAB installation. And it looks for files there. I changed this to my desktop by clicking on this little button with 3 dots on it and changing the path. Okay, so if you want to change the path and have it run files from different directories, just click this dot. So this lists all the files on my desktop, actually, because that's what my path is set to. And I can also go here and look at my workspace. Notice, remember, I defined A to be 5, and these are some other commands left over from an earlier run. One thing that's kind of nice is I can set up a matrix. Say, I guess we were doing M1 equals ones of 5, for example. It sets up a 5 by 5 matrix of ones. Notice how here it's in the workspace it shows M1 to be a 5 by 5 matrix of double precision variables. If I double click this right here, takes a little while, but it'll show me that matrix in a kind of a spreadsheet form, and I can go in here, for example, and actually edit this. So I could change that element to a 2, and if I go back, get rid of this, get back to the command window, type M1, notice it has that 2 there. So sometimes that's kind of handy also. All right. Now I'm going to get rid of this workspace and the current directory, and this is the command history here. So the other thing it does is retains commands that I've created. I can click on those commands from the history. I can if I hold down Control, I can highlight a bunch of them. And one nice thing is I can right-click these and say Create M file, and it'll open up the editor with those commands in an M file. Okay, so remember I said earlier that sometimes I use MATLAB interactively. What I'll do is just play around with a command, and once I get it working the way I want it, then I'll highlight the commands that worked. In this, right click, create an M file, and then that's the beginning of my script that I'll work from then on. Okay. If I want to return the desktop layout to the way I had it, I can go desktop layout at default, for example, and it'll bring up that, or I can go to only the command window or things like that. Okay, so you have some options for getting back to the way it was or trying other approaches. Okay, I can look at a directory, say of M files, and here's my lesson 4 script. If I type the name of that script, it'll execute it. Okay, including giving me this plot. Alright, so let's look at that script. I can say open from the M file editor, click on lesson4.m, and it'll show me that script. So I have all these commands here, and what it did when I typed the name of that script into Matlab was it executed all these commands one by one, and you saw some of it just scrolled off the board. One thing to notice is that this editor is tabbed editor, and the tabs are at the bottom, so I can click back and forth from one file to another and open a bunch of files at once. Another thing that I'll point out is you can click this little button here, which is looks like a document with a down arrow next to it, if you want to run a file. So another way to run one of your script files is to click this button. And notice it's hard to tell, but it's ran again. If I scroll up, I see the commands twice. So it walked through all that whole thing just in one shot. Another thing I'll point out is it's quite possible you'll be inputting script files like this for your homework. One thing that's convenient for me is, say, between exercises, you can put in a pause command, okay? And what I'll often do is say display, type any key to continue. Okay, so what'll happen it'll execute these 6 commands, and then it'll write on the screen, type any key to continue, and then it'll stop. And it'll stop until the user hits some key. And then it'll do these other commands, and I might put another pause here, and I can copy this. Okay, so I'll get the first 6 commands and a pause, then I'll get these and a pause, and then these. And if you want to make it even clearer, you can put a CLC command here. That'll clear the command window, and this will make things actually quite clean. So I'm going to hit run here. Go back to the command window. Notice how it did just this first group of commands, A, B, C, then echoed A, B, and then stopped and said type any key to continue. Now I'll hit those. I get the vectors and matrices, and I'll hit the command. I hit a key again. I'm just hitting the space bar, but you can hit anything, and I'll get the plot window.